Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television here in Ghana. My name is Bernard Avle. On The Point of View, we choose the right topics, we get the right guests, we ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. And they don't come any bigger than what we have for you today. It's a big conversation on a very controversial issue. And I have two key people to delve into the matter. If you're watching on television, get in touch with your views and your comments on the WhatsApp number we will put on the screen. If you're also watching on a social media platform like Facebook, there's always a conversation on the stream that we welcome your views from. I'll tell you more about my guests when we come back. Welcome back to The Point of View. So, on the 31st of January, global aircraft manufacturer Airbus was fined in excess of $3 billion for corruption. It was an investigation conducted by British and French investigators with support from the Americans, and found that the company had bribed government officials in up to 6 countries, 5 of them in Asia, 1 in Africa. It so happens that the African country is Ghana, but there are many issues here to look into. Tonight we'll find out what does this DPA actually mean, this Deferred Prosecution Agreement, and how similar are the British and American versions of what Airbus did. And more importantly, who are the key individuals involved and why should we care? We'll be speaking to a member of parliament who was in parliament debating the purchase of the 2 C295s and also the Embraer aircraft. He's a member of parliament for Tamale Central. Inusah Fuseini, you join us. We also have Buaben Asamoa, who's the MP for Adenta, but also the Director of Communications for the MPP. He held a press conference earlier today and actually named names. He dropped names. Before I show you my guests, let me take you to a quick summary of what this whole issue is about. Sixtus Dong Ulu has been summarizing what the Crown Court has been saying. But even before I go there, TV3 in 2011, on the 22nd of July, were in Parliament to capture the debate. So the debate was in 2 days, 21st and 22nd. On the 21st, there was a controversial conversation about the Embraer, whether the $55 million was too much, whether $17 million for a hangar was too high, and whether the C295s at the cost of €24 million was fair value. Here's an excerpt of that debate.
I went to the internet to check prices of various aircrafts. Speaker, I have a copy here. I will table it before you. My concern is value for money. And one would have thought that Social Democrats will be more interested in value for money so that we will save the taxpayer the little money that we have in this country. So, Speaker, the standard price of every plane is quoted. The Embraer 190 that we're being told today in this house that the Speaker is costing the taxpayer a whooping sum of $88 million. The Speaker, when you go to the internet, the Speaker, is $32 million.
We have civil pattern and military party. And we sat down, my team sat down with the manufacturers, and this is what we came up with. There are different issues. And normally for a new aircraft, there is a provision for about 2 or 3 years spares backing. This has also been taken care of.
The configuration that has to be done, they are not matters of dispute. It's the basic that we are talking about. And the SAA, Mr. Speaker, he knows that the capacity of that one is even 112 and not 114 that we are talking about. He knows that. He knows that. The engine capacity, everything is the same. So it cannot be, Mr. Speaker, he's not disputing the basic right. He's talking about the configuration, which is acceptable. The configuration, the reconfiguration is acceptable. It will certainly come with additional cost. What we are disputing is the shell cost.
Please note that the price of the aircraft may vary depending upon customized specifications. and together with information from the best possible source. Not all of them is official. Order. In case together with the representation that comes across such specs or pricing, you feel you can give us more authoritative figure, please do so. Mr. Speaker, this being a document from the Honorable Deputy Minority Leader that raised this very crucial point. Once we are using the same document and it introduces this particular specific things, the burden is that you are now talking about the quantum of the specifications. Perhaps if anybody is beginning to indicate that all these reconfigurations and other additions does not amount to the difference between the 32 and what has been quoted there, then perhaps that is where.
All right, so that was the debate from the 21st of July 2011. That's some 9 years ago. So in studio, I have the MP for Adenta and the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party, lawyer Buaben Asamoa, a former anti-corruption crusader, I must say. Yeah, because that used to be your job. Ghana Integrity Initiative.
I set it up.
So actually, when I was a student broadcaster at Radio Universe, when we talked to him, he was talking anti-corruption.
Okay.
Yes, those were in the late 90s.
Okay.
And then we have Honorable Inusah Fuseini. He's also a lawyer, member of parliament for Tamale Central. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Now, let me give a quick summary of this particular story because, of course, there's the British Crown Court and their deferred prosecution agreement, and there's also allegations by the Justice Department of the U.S. Sixto Dongulo put everything together in this short report.
The first contract between Airbus and Ghana was signed on August 3, 2011, selling two C-295s. Airbus delivered the two aircraft on November 17, 2011 and March 19, 2012, respectively. Airbus filed ITAR license applications with the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls of the United States Department of State for the transfer of the defense articles in these two C-295s to Ghana under license numbers GC 271511, approved November 30, 2011, and GC 2020-12, approved August 30, 2012. In those license applications, Airbus stated that the transaction met the requirements of 22 CFR Section 1302 and asserted that Airbus and its vendors had not paid, offered, or agreed to pay political contributions, fees, or commissions in connection with the sale. In fact, Airbus or its vendors had paid, offered, or agreed to pay political contributions, fees, or commissions in connection with these sales in the amount of at least 3,596,523 euros. Between 2009 and 2016, Individual 1, a citizen of Ghana, was a high-ranking elected government official in Ghana during the relevant ITAR time period. Beginning in or around 2009, a few months after Individual 1 took office, Individual 1 was in direct and repeated contact with senior Airbus executives from both the Defense and Space Division and Asamoa International about Airbus sales campaigns. Individual 1 was influential in having the government of Ghana approve aircraft purchases, and Individual 1 contacted Airbus senior executives during the government approval process. In 2011, during Individual 1's time in office, the Ghanaian Parliament approved the purchase of two C-295 aircrafts. Airbus purposefully sought to engage Consultant 4 due to his closeness to Individual 1, and Airbus management included Consultant 4 in their communications with Individual 1. Consultant 4 and Consultant 5 initially were engaged by Airbus without any written business partner agreement and without Airbus completing due diligence. Airbus initially agreed to pay Consultant 4 through a company owned by Consultant 4 and Consultant 5 in excess of 3,500,000 euros for the Ghana C-295 sales campaign. Airbus worked with Consultant 4 and Consultant 5 for 2 years before submitting a business partner application to Airbus's compliance staff. Therefore, due to the scrutiny of using Consultant 4 as a business partner, senior leadership in Asamoa International and the Defense and Space Division concocted a plan to deliberately circumvent Airbus's compliance rule. Additionally, on or about March 28, 2012, Airbus made political contributions in the amount of 62,200 euros to a Spanish foundation related to agricultural development in Ghana. This contribution was not initially disclosed on GC 271511 or GC 2020-12. Airbus subsequently disclosed the same to the State Department out of abundance of caution, as no direct link between these political contributions and the relevant C295 sales has been identified.
Wow, so that was the report. So I'm sure the numbers are quite interesting. So there's individual 1 and there's also government official 1. It's actually the same person because the British document used government official 1, but the American document used individual 1. There's also consultant 4 and 5 used by the American document, which is the same as intermediary 5 or 6 used by the British document. There's also organization 1. There's company D. These are very interesting numbers. There's even company employee 15 and 16. We tried to create some tree chart and we'll show it to you later on during the show. Let me start with so there you have it. So that's a quick timeline of the, I'm not sure how clear that is, but I'll probably bolden it for you to see, and I'll walk you through this. But so there are 2 documents. Let me come to Buaben Asamoa, because the government had issued a statement that the Special Prosecutor's Office should investigate the role of Ghanaian government officials. So we're all like, okay, so let's wait for Amidu to work. Less than 3 hours after that statement, you held a press conference and you say you have all the answers. So you know who the people are. Aren't you jumping the gun, Mr. Communication Director?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me this evening, and greetings to your viewers and listeners. Indeed, it depends on which gun you're looking at. It depends on which gun you're looking at. There are 2 dimensions to this issue. You have the executive government dimension, focused on investigations, and you have the political dimension to this matter, which is the business of the political party. Now, we were willing to wait for this matter to play out, as you said, but then there was a political reaction from the NDC through the statement released by the former Attorney General of the Republic, the Honorable Marietta Brew Appiah-Opong, disclaiming everything, stating in blunt terms and blankly, without any detail, that nobody was responsible for anything. Literally ravishing the report that had come out. Of course, the statement was also on the political letterhead of the NDC. So we felt as a party that it was important to also come out with what we had pieced together in order to ensure that there wasn't any political space that would be left in a vacuum for that document to take over. So
you are responding to the NDC's response?
We're responding to the political response of the NDC to the matter.
Without prejudicing what the Special Prosecutor's Office would find?
Absolutely not. We are not in any position to prejudice the
but you've mentioned who individual 1 or government official 1 is, which we are sure he's supposed to find based on his own work.
Anybody reading the documents and piecing it together with other evidence elsewhere will come to that conclusion who individual 1 is. Anybody. So we are saying that it's a political process. Marietta comes out and denies. We're asking that from what we've pieced together, this is the individual. So that individual should come out the way Marietta did and say that I was in charge, it's not me, it is that person, and that person has something to answer. It is not sufficient for Marietta to simply come in and say nothing untoward has happened.
But this is an interesting argument, because sometimes government says opposition people rather make allegations and say if it's not true, come out. Now you are the governing party, you are saying You are throwing it out so that Mr. Mahama will come out. I think that's a bit interesting, is it not?
We are not merely throwing it out, Bernard. We are saying that even beyond the investigation, which is yet, I believe, to start, there is enough material here. That is why they went out to deny.
Okay.
So it's not as if we are throwing it out for them. They have already denied. And we are attacking that denial. That is what we are doing. We are saying that that denial is vacuous, doesn't have any content, and is trying to beat about the bush.
Good.
So they should come back on that denial.
How did you arrive at the conclusion that individual one, or government official one, being the same person, is former President Mahama? Because you said that at your press conference.
The circumstances are very clear. Circumstances are very clear. You have a profile of intermediary 5, who is consultant 4. And that profile matches the profile of individual 1's brother, or should I say government official 1. Because in the court documents, the profile is that this is a UK national born in Ghana, brought to the UK at a very, very early age, lived for several years without family engagement, and rediscovered by the family in the later 90s. This is the same profile that you find in John Dramani Mahama's book, Coup d'etat, where he says,
My first coup d'etat.
My first coup d'etat. That he had a brother who was taken at 9 years to the UK, legally adopted. But at that time, he argues that his father didn't know the import of the documents he signed. But because he was legally adopted, he was kept away from the family for several years until the people deigned to let them have access to him in the 90s. So he was reunited with his sibling. Now, it didn't end there. The court documents go on to say that at the point when we should use consultant for and all those things have come in. I think let's stick to the British documents.
Stick to the British
nomenclature.
Yes.
Intermediary 5. At the point where intermediary 5, after working for a couple of years, wanted to regularize his business partnership agreement, it came up through due diligence that his brother was individual, or his brother was government official 1. That reinforced the situation. And at that time, who could have been in that position based on what we read from my first coup d'etat? John Mahama was vice president and chairman of the Armed Forces Council. At the time, the key decision maker identified in the court documents was engaging on purchasing these things. And we recall that at that time, he had authority enough that he had negotiated the embryos to the point where the president had set up a committee to try and investigate his conduct at that time. So he was.
Is this a fact that the sitting president set up a committee to investigate his vice president?
Then Attorney General said that. It's not
Was
me
there
saying
ever a report of that committee's work? Did they ever meet at all?
We have never impugned the Attorney General's report. That Attorney General is now the Special Prosecutor of Ghana. Nobody has ever impugned that report, but he came out and stated that. And we have all used that as a working premise. Yes. So at the time, the individual who was a high elected government official and had key decision-making powers was in the right office, and that office was chairman of the Armed Forces Council, and that was John Dramani Mahama as vice president.
So you are making...
Fast forward to 2015. He's president of Ghana, and the same person working with the same brother, as it were, to engage the Airbus purchases. And when it arrived in Kotoka, if you recall, from the GBC newsreel, and rightly so, he felt proud enough of the purchases to have told the whole world that he had personally facilitated the
Embraer.
Which aircraft did he meet at the airport?
That I'm not sure, because there are 3 different. So there are 2 Airbuses, the C295s. There's the Embraer, and then there are 2 other surveillance planes, which were back of the 5.
There's the last Airbus which came, C295.
Yes, the Airbus, there were 3, if I'm not mistaken. So the first 2.
So 2 came.
C295 were 3.
And 2 came first. And then one came later.
Good. I don't need to summarize and then I'll come to you.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that based
on
the evidence we've pieced together from the face of the record, as well as my first coup d'etat, we believe that individual one or government official one can be no other than John Dramani Mahama.
So these are deductions you are making?
Making from
good. So
the records.
So for now, they remain, some would say reasonable deductions, some could say
circumstantial,
but they are deductions nonetheless.
They are deductions, inferences.
So, Honorable Fuseini, I brought you here for two reasons. Because you're a member of the NDC, you're a member of Parliament. But in going through the Hansard, I noticed that in the debate leading up to all of this, you were quite prominent in the debate. So later on, I'll come to you on the debate on the aircraft.
Yep.
But your former Attorney General issued a press statement, which I believe is the position of the party, which I thought you should speak to generally, which I believe is your first defense. That
it's not a defense.
You are saying that what we are reporting is not
defense.
true.
It's not a defense.
What is it?
It's our first position. We're not defending anything.
Okay, so
NDC is not defending
Thank
anything.
you for your correction. So it's your position.
That's our position.
Good. I'll put that document on the screen. But remember what she said. She basically says there's a story that's circulating about some payments made by Airbus and that there was no payment made by Airbus to any NDC official. And then she elaborates and says that no NDC official is cited as having, no government official has having received anything, and that the information being put out there is a distortion of what is in the. Yeah. So you need to explain that.
That's a very good summary, and I think that I need to also greet your listeners and
now we have viewers too.
Viewers too, and to say that yes, Marieta's statement was issued to correct distortions in the media, distortions that had been largely carried in the media by reason of the fact that the MPP had simply gone to town on matters that were not borne out by the judgment of the court in the UK.
Okay.
Anybody reading the judgment cannot fail to realize that this agreement or this judgment was on the basis of an agreement entered into with business partners for the payment of excess commissions to these business partners. And in the agreement, in the judgment, nowhere is it stated that political contributions were made to the NDC. Nowhere in the judgment is it stated that the business partners paid back monies to anybody in the NDC. Nowhere is it stated that kickbacks were taken by anybody in this country. I mean, it can only be a figment of the imagination of people, based largely on speculative considerations, that these matters clearly were matters that were founded on some level of wrongdoing by the NDC government and led by President John Dramani Mahama. Let me say categorically that I don't believe that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president of this country, has read the judgment. I don't believe. Because I know he's a lawyer. And if he had read the judgment, he would have been left in no doubt that this is not a matter for a special prosecutor. But be it as it may, the NDC welcomes the referral to the special prosecutor. Indeed, I can say even before he starts his work, that is a needless waste of time by the president. Needless waste of time by the president. Because the matters stated in the judgment are matters that are of public knowledge. The judgment recites clearly, and Buaben Asamoa has told us that he knows because of the speculative conclusions he has arrived at. He knows the person government official number one is. And he could only do that by speculation, because he knows as a lawyer that we characterize, we name witnesses, we name persons in court. And so when you have PW1, it's a prosecution witness 1. When you have GO1, as in the British judgment, it means that there are many government officials. Okay? But there's a government official 1, government official 2. He says, by reading the book of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the referral to his brother that was sent to UK at age 7, linking the two together, one can only come to a conclusion that that person who was taken at that young age by adoption is the person who came back as the brother of John Dramani Mahama to transact the deal. Now, that itself exposes the falsity of the argument, because in the history of this country, it is not only one person who was taken out of this country at that age. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, and it might sound ridiculous. It will sound ridiculous. The second thing is that if you even assuming but not admitting that it is the person related to His Excellency John Dramani. And by the way, the judgment, nowhere in the judgment has it been reported that that person was a brother to John Dramani.
It has.
Where?
In the judgment, in the American, in the Department of Justice deposition.
What was Department of Justice investigating in the first place?
Oh, I mean,
Department of Justice was listen.
I can read it.
No. Department of Justice of America was investigating a potential breach of international trade in arms regulations.
Yes.
That's what they were investigating.
But the facts are the same.
No. Well,
the facts of the case
Bernard,
are the same.
I think that we have read this judgment. And to read...
No, what I'm saying is not a judgment. There are two things. Hold on. You are saying that nowhere was a brother mentioned. And I'm saying
I'm referring to the judgment.
Yes. And I'm saying that there's not only a judgment. In my intro, I said we have a judgment. And then we have...
okay, so let me. I'm referring to the judgment delivered by the Crown Court of Southwark.
Yes, but I've said that's not the document I'm depending on for the conversation.
And I'm saying that in that judgment...
Close relative.
In that judgment...
Yes, they didn't mention brother. They said close relative. You're right.
Good.
But the Americans say brother.
Fair enough, so proceed.
Assuming but not admitting. I mean, Buaben Asamoa knows, as a matter of fact, that close relatives of this country are not prevented from doing business. He knows, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because we know the issue of Kufo, the Hotel Kufo. The son, Kufo, was not prevented from doing business.
Chief Kufo.
Close relative is not prevented from doing business. We know, you know Gazprom? You know who are their agents? Gazprom. They are the regasification plant in Tema, the Russian company.
But it was about
you know their agents?
Who are their agents?
Well,
tell us so we can know.
Wait until they put in place the RTI law. I will file a disclosure. The agents of Gazprom are close relatives of the president.
This sitting president?
Very close relatives of the president.
Okay.
Who says close relatives are prevented from doing business in Ghana?
OEC.
Who says?
In this particular incident.
So again, let's come back. You see,
so I'm happy. I'm
sitting here with Buaben Asamoa. What triggered the investigation in the first place?
The British investigation?
Yes, what triggered it in the first place? It was after the signing of the agency agreement and the commissioning of an expert to do due diligence in Ghana on the agents, the business agents that they had signed. The expert came to the country and found that one of the partners bore some close relation with a government official number one. When you look at Fete Fruits, that person is put in the PEP position, politically exposed person. And that, in the 1997 OECD rules, that is the potential red flag. That in no way points to bribery and corruption. It infringes the rules. The 1997 OECD rules of engaging politically exposed persons in business because of the likelihood of corruption. Corruption is defined broadly.
And then as we
please. Corruption is defined broadly by OECD rules to include unfair trade practices.
Okay.
So Airbus is in direct competition with Boeing.
Exactly.
And so Boeing too produces the type of aircraft that we bought from Airbus. And so Boeing then alleges, or members of the Airbus company alleges that by reason of the close relationship, Airbus could be engaging in an illegality. An illegality based on an infringement of the OECD rules.
So you have no problem what they are doing on their side. But importing that here is the issue.
So now they are running on top of their... I just simply can't understand.
I'll take a break.
I just simply
so
can't understand
maybe we'll
them.
think about it.
They have just lost their sense of reason.
I'll be back.
We are right on top of our game.
This is the point of view. Inusah Fuseini can't understand why this is even an issue. But YB says he has more ammunition. We'll be right back. This is the point of view. Stay with us. Welcome back. So the point of view is delving into the Airbus bribery saga. Airbus has been investigated by a British Crown Court. In fact, before a proper trial, they did what they call a DPA, which led to an agreement that Airbus should pay in excess of £3 billion because they felt that, look, if they went into a full trial, the stock market could affect Airbus's share, they could lose people working and stuff. But they've said that individuals connected to the corruption could still be prosecuted, but for the company, they've agreed, which means that Airbus has admitted culpability in breaching some rules. Now, the NDC's Inusah Fuseini says, well, those rules are OECD rules, and there's nothing that says you can't do business even if you're a relative. So, YB, you need to come back here. Yes. He's basically saying you are importing some standard in the EU, OECD countries, the top 20 richest countries in the world, and trying to superimpose that to make some inference that somebody is corrupt, when nothing like that has happened. Are you going to go beyond the deductions you make to give us some more evidence?
Absolutely not. The OECD rules don't stand alone. They are rules on foreign business practices. Mm-hmm. Those rules govern the activities.
When you bring them, they send it to the Supreme Court.
Allow.
When you breach OC,
please.
Let's go on.
I took my time. I listened to you.
Very well.
You have tried to localize the thing externally. But whatever you do, it's local. The OECD rules are meant to govern the practices of those companies abroad. Mm-hmm. That's what those rules are meant for. Yeah. Yes. Foreign trade practices. Yes. That means they impinge on us directly. Mm-hmm. It is because of us that those rules have been made.
Okay.
Exactly. Because foreign trade is what they govern. That you don't import corruption into your trade dealings abroad. That is what it's about. Now, let's go to why Ghana is on this list. The court cases say 130 countries and 30 million documents were examined. And Ghana made it onto this short list.
Of six?
Of six. There is no smoke without fire. Now, if you step back, the American documents want to go all the way back to 2009. Immediately there was a transfer of power in Ghana. And link Consultant 4 to Individual 1 at that stage, even before there was an expression of interest for the purchase in Ghana. So there was a vested interest in that relationship. There was a vested interest in that relationship. Go forward to documentation at the time they were filing for business partner arrangements. Mm-hmm. Why would they then do false documentation?
Who did false documentation?
Who did false documentation?
The intermediary.
Who's intermediary?
Intermediary 5?
8. No, intermediary 5.
Yes. The Spanish company.
The Spanish company.
Yes.
But they didn't file false documents here.
Please.
No,
they filed false documentation to make sure that the money will be funneled through.
They said they had an address in Ghana which didn't exist.
Please, let me land. Why are you in a hurry to defend your position? You have a position.
We are referring to we are referring to the Spanish company that
which judgment are you reading?
The British
one. Which judgment are you? I have the British. I'm going to read it to you.
We are all here in the studio.
We all have the
and there will be lots of time to go through these processes. Intermediary 5 set up a Ghanaian company.
Yes.
Company D.
Yes.
Which he then went on to incorporate in London.
Yes.
With 2 other associates, intermediary 6 and 7.
Yes.
When the time came, and this company D facilitated the meetings.
Yes.
Between the Ghanaian government official and Airbus.
Yes.
To the point of agreement.
Yes.
Now, when they were ready to take their commission of 3 million euros, it turns out that the OECD rules would not allow it.
Yes.
So what was the legal thing to do? They then looked for another intermediary 8, and backdated a contract with intermediary 8.
Yes.
To all intents and purposes, a false document. Because intermediary 8 had not done the work he was supposed to have done. And instead of 3 million, 3.9 million in excess, I have the exact figures here, were paid to intermediary 8, who then forwarded 3.8 of that money to Company D.
3.3.
The figures are here.
3,100,000.
3.0.
The figures are here.
3.8.
The figures are here.
Oh.
The figures are here.
Where? Are you reading the judgment or your own?
The judgment. The judgment is, I extracted this from the judgment.
No, well.
Listen, I extracted this straight from the judgment. Between March 2012 and February 2014, Airbus is said to have paid intermediary 8 a total of 3.909,756.85 million euro. 3,909,756.
Which paragraph are you reading?
I'm reading from my text.
No,
from
we
the
want a paragraph.
press
We are
conference.
looking-
I extracted this from the
This is
judgment.
from
I'm not
not
carrying
from proper custody.
I'm not carrying the
splitting
judgment.
hairs on a number.
No,
A payment
this is
of-
not proper custody.
Payments
That's
have
what-
passed.
What I have here
Payments
on the
have
paragraph
passed.
is 3.001.
Yes, I'm coming to explain that.
3.001.
3.001 is the
No,
so-called
which one?
5% commission.
Which one?
The British one.
3,001,718.
3.001 in the British one.
It's supposed to be the commission. But when a shell company came in, 3.9 was paid to the shell.
So let's read this.
Who then
The
paid?
payment, paragraph 180. Between March 2012 and February 2014, Airbus paid 3.909,756 to a third-party company, intermediary 8.
Yes.
Intermediary 8 paid 3.850115 to company D.
Yes.
In respect of second company, intermediary 5 or company D were promised approximately 1.675, but this money was not paid. So he's
Yes,
reading
that's the third
paragraph
one.
180.
Yes, so we are
This
not
is
reading.
C, the
Paragraph
payment.
180.
180,
Yes.
the payment. So that is correct.
Yes.
Monies
But
have
let
been
me
paid.
Okay,
Why
I'll
are
correct
you
you. I'll correct
trying to
No, I'll
the
correct it.
situation?
I'll correct you.
Monies have been paid through shell companies.
I'll correct you.
Monies have been paid through shell companies. These monies have been disguised and paid through shell companies and received by intermediaries who were in direct contact with the Ghanaian government leaderships. This is what we are saying. Monies have been paid and disguised at that because they were paid through a shell company which was not contemplated in the beginning. And that shell company, the figures that are given in the original approval of 3 million, by the time the shell company came in, had shot up to 3.9 million.
No.
And then 3.85 was paid to intermediary 5, and in excess of 800,000 or over 800,000 euros. So something has happened. Monies have been passed. Now I'm asking, why the struggle to externalize? If you were in charge at the time, if you presided over the buying of these things, why don't you just come out and tell us that the people who have been named operated above board, and this is the person who was involved, this is the government official that you say is an ordinary government official one who was involved. Why and what is stopping you from giving out that information in all innocence? Because you cannot say that. You cannot say that. You cannot say that this is an external matter. You cannot say that this is an external matter.
We are not guilty, and this is not
exactly. So NDC, tell us who those individuals are in the position.
But Inusah,
yes.
Aren't you? So, isn't NDC interested in unraveling this?
Assuming
that you are saying that individual one is not Mr. Mahama, and all the
even if GO1 is Mahama,
yes,
we are interested in unraveling it. But let me backtrack small. You see, the 3.909 million
yes,
was gross payment.
Paragraph 180.
Was gross payment. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you have not read the judgment.
I have.
You have not.
No, go on.
And then the payment that they were entitled to under the agreement that was signed in Ghana was 3.001.
Correct.
Because under OECD rules, they can't make payments beyond 3,800,001. So that was captured in the agreement that was signed in Ghana.
Fair enough.
Now, why is there excess?
A discrepancy.
The Spanish company then paid them minus tax.
Yes.
3.851 million. That was where the overpayment of 850 million came into the matter.
Yes.
Because they had already recited on documents that by the EOCD rules,
OECD.
you can OE, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development Rules or Convention. Listen, please. They had already recited on the agreement that was signed between the Spanish company and Ghana that they would not pay beyond that amount.
I just want to finish. Go on. Please. So fine. So yes, we understand what you're saying. So but I want to know what that means.
Listen, haven't paid over that amount.
Yes.
That was where the excess.
The 850,000.
Excess came in.
Good.
How does it concern us?
But who took that?
That's why we are here.
Hold on. Who will take that 850,000?
The fact is that the people, by the agreement that was signed in Ghana, were to be paid commission. By the agreement that was signed, were to be paid commission.
But it shouldn't be over and above a certain amount.
Well,
you are breaking the rules.
Please, we didn't pay.
No, forget about it. No, just focus on one thing.
So if the Spanish company paid in excess of the amount that was agreed and declared on the documents that were signed in Ghana between the Spanish company and the government of Ghana, who refunds the money? The government of Ghana? Is that your training in law?
But are you not worried that
is that the government of Ghana?
As a member of parliament, I'm coming. Just hold on. You've made your point. In Parliament, there was a major debate where Osei Mensamosu and Co said, number one, this particular plane was overpriced. They said the plane, when they went to the website, was $22 million. But we were buying it for 24 million euro, which at the time was $32 million, 10 million extra. They alleged that we signed, the finance minister, the attorney general, and the defense ministry all used the same day to go through the document. And they were claiming that they smelt a rat. And I'm saying, as a member of parliament who was in parliament, are you not concerned that something that was raised about whether this was value for money, all of a sudden we are seeing an overpayment for commission? Should that not interest you purely from a point of view of whether this deal was kosher?
First of all that was said in Parliament was speculative vituperations. Because nobody provided us with any evidence. Nobody in Parliament. When you look at the debate, nobody. Number two, the OEC itself and the British court itself came to the conclusion that because of the falsity of documentation by the Spanish company, the whole deal was tainted. And so profits made by the company should be recovered and paid into the consolidated fund held by the SOF as a fine. So that in any way, reveals, discloses, or shows
but does not,
that it doesn't
minority that said.
You are reading into I'm not saying that you should read into the majority. I'm just saying that that in no way compromises the value for money audit.
But there was no value for money audit.
How can it not?
Who did the value for money audit?
How can it not?
Well,
who did it? Because in the answer, it was very clear when the minority leader asked for value for money audit. The deputy finance minister answered and said the procurement authorities' information was kosher. They didn't need a value for money audit. And Hakman Oswaji might ask, I can read that to you, that if we are going to do sole sourcing, we should do value for money audit. And they couldn't provide a value for money, so you can't tell me that there was value for money audit.
Well, you see what you are saying.
Who did a value for money audit?
You see what you are saying.
No, I'm saying
Bernard, I thought you were the host.
Yes, I'm asking you a question on the basis of the document.
I'm saying that when we bought the aircraft, there was value for money. And there was an audit of value for money.
Done by who?
Listen to me. You have not read the judgment.
Oh, please.
Bernard, you have not read the judgment. Listen.
When you are in the corner, you see nobody has read the
asking you a simple question.
Simple. If you have read the judgment,
don't worry.
Please.
Maybe I'm not literate. I can't read. I said, who did the value
if
for
you have
money
read
audit?
the judgment, you will see in the judgment that the British court said that the countries that bought the aircraft were not shortchanged.
Which countries?
Malaysia. Well, let's limit it to Ghana. Nobody.
You see,
We borrowed money to buy those aircraft.
Even one of the countries.
We borrowed money.
Even one of the countries bought 11 aircraft. 9 were found to have breached rules, 2 did not. Yeah. So you can't just generalize all the aircraft.
I'm saying that. I'm saying that.
Come out of the money.
Let's not argue on something that is not essential to the report, to the judgment.
I'm saying that. Let's help each other. I am just saying to you that you said there was a value for money.
There was value for money.
And I'm asking who did it. That's all. That's whether I read the judgment or
not. So
you
mean that before we bought the aircraft, we did not satisfy ourselves that there was value for money?
The reason I ask you is that in your Hansard, the reason I ask you the question is that in your Hansard, Hakman Osu Ajimai said there was no value for money audit. And nobody supplied it to him. So if there was, just tell me who did it so we can move on. It's how difficult is the question.
I will not be able to tell you who did it. But I'm saying that the aircrafts were purchased consequent upon the value for money. And that is borne out by the judgment. Clearly by the judgment. Go and read count 5 of the judgment.
No problem.
No, it's not a laughing matter.
No, because
don't trivialize the matter.
You are distorting my question.
I'm not distorting your comment. You are trivializing the matter. No. I'm saying that go back to the judgment. Read the findings of the judge and see as part of.
I think you should be fair to me.
I'm very fair to you.
You can't tell me that I come and sit and not having read the judgment, having marked all these numbers on the pages.
Well, let me tell you. So if you have read the judgment, what influenced the judge to agree that in the interest of justice and to be fair, reasonable, and proportionate, they should do the deferred prosecution agreement?
We all don't get the same thing from what you read. That's why I am trying to leave.
That's why I think that you have not read the judgment.
No problem. That one we can decide later. But my question for you has not been answered substantively. That if somebody is paying us above what we agreed to buy an aircraft, as an MP who was in Parliament at the time, does that not concern you? Which is the question you have not answered for me.
If someone was not paying us what? I'm looking for the place where the judge said.
You've just told me that.
I'm looking for the place where the judge said.
You've told me
nobody lost.
You've told me that. You've told me that. The agreement was to pay 3 million.
Yes.
But the people paid 3.8.
Well, I've told you that the agreement,
yes,
which was signed between Ghana and the Spanish company, recited 2 caveats, 2 cardinal conditions that agreement complied with the OECD rules, and that commission payments will not exceed $3.001 million.
Yes.
Now, the British court found as a fact that the Spanish company, and how did the Spanish company come in? It was consequent upon the due diligence that was done, and then the likelihood of, the breaches of the OECD rules, where they suggested that a third Spanish company, which had been registered earlier and which had done business with Airbus, take up the matter.
Good. So I'm saying, why would they pay over and above? Why would they pay over and above the amount? I just want your view on that.
Why? Well, how can I know the internal processes of a company between Spain and
But for a country that is buying, why don't you allow me to ask my question? For a country that is buying an aircraft, which is where we have debated whether we are paying the right value for the aircraft, if the supplier is paying some third party more than they deserve, should that not raise a red flag?
When did you know that they had paid them extra?
No, all this.
When did you know?
All this after the fact. All from the document we read.
That's what I'm asking now. So we have said that.
I'm not asking you.
No. You just got to know that through the judgment that payment was done. That was. So we are saying that we support the investigation by the special prosecutor.
So I'm not asking you what you thought. I'm asking what you thought.
I thought that you were saying that.
How can I be asking what you think then? How can you go back?
We can go back.
My brother, I think you need another break. Honestly, you need another break. So when we come back, it's really a question of what's the way forward. Where does this leave Mr. Amidu himself? Because it appears that what you have done, I'm not sure what else he can do. And there's a view that because he was Attorney General in some period in that exercise, he may not even be the right person to investigate this. So we'll find out when we come back. This is the point of view. Stay with us. So welcome back. Here are some of your comments on the issue. Olanyo Nakwetia says, NDC legal team led by Marietta on the Airbus scandal is doing the nation a great disservice. Why doesn't she file an appeal to challenge the UK court with the so-called facts she has? What is her press release all about? To twist the truth as usual? Good evening, Bernard. So what happened to all the corruption allegations under this MPP administration, so that all of a sudden we have been invited to talk about Airbus? Okota from Breman Brakwa. Bernard, I think government was right to refer the Airbus saga to special prosecutor, but it won't be conflict of interest because Mr. Amidu was But won't it be conflict of interest because Mr. Amidu was Attorney General? Please educate me. That question, YB will answer. I've actually put that question to him already. He will answer it. Yusuf Wahab from Sunyani says, Bernard, please ask the MPP communicator when the CID will finish investigating the Australia visa scandal. The PDS and others still are waiting. Yeah. But guys, for how long will the political class play with us? NDC and MPP are the same. Their spokespersons are getting ready to equalize until another news is released to kill this story. God bless Ghana. This is Obed from Ho. Mustafa from Osekuse, Lower Manyakrobo. His Excellency John Brown Mahama is innocent in this Airbus saga. Nanado must investigate the missing Ghanaian excavators and tricycles rather than this Airbus issue. Okay. So, Bernard, this morning I got to know that the intermediary 5 was an agent appointed by Airbus to mediate in transaction with the government of Ghana. The 5 million supposed payment was a success-based commission that wasn't paid for lack of due diligence. There's no evidence that the aircraft were purchased under uncompetitive conditions, and thus Ghana lost any money. So what is the interest of Ghana? Koshi Badohu Aivo, Denu Junction. Okay, we have a few minutes to wrap this up. Quick question about Amidu and the fact that he was Attorney General in 2011. Yes. And
I find it very interesting because the conflict of interest rules in the Constitution are about using your position for personal benefit. Okay. So if he was Attorney General, acting in an official capacity, and he's now special prosecutor, acting in an official capacity, can that translate into conflict?
No, because the president said he should investigate the role of Ghanaian officials.
Yes.
To the extent that the Attorney General would be one of the officials, and that he would be from the 2011 date, the Attorney General who would give advice before the matter will get to Parliament. Because, for example, in July 2011, he was Attorney General.
If that is construed as self-interest, then I think Martin has to come out and deconstruct it for all of us. I think it is for Martin to come out quickly and say that at that stage, I had an interest in these matters. Because you recall, you asked me before, he's the same person who came up with the Embraer issues. Yes. And these were coterminous at the same time. So it is for Martin to deconstruct it quickly and let us move on in the direction that we should go, because the investigation has to happen.
Some people are also asking why the president has not ordered similar investigations into other, what they consider equally important corruption issues. Why is he picking and choosing this one? Is it because it affects
investigations into everything? The Australian visa scandal has been investigated and the matter is clear.
They say some missing tractors.
What do you call it? They are not tractors, excavators.
Excavators.
I understand.
Tricycles.
Investigators have already moved on that matter.
Is it?
And with the tricycles as well, I understand the CID has already moved on that matter. So no matter.
But the president didn't direct them to move on that one.
I can't tell whether the president did. This was more
of
a public interest.
People want to know why he's interested in this one.
Yeah, but people can't assume that he didn't direct that one either. You can't assume that he didn't direct that one either. Yeah. But I would want to see independent institutions move on their own. Because that question
has also been asked. His press secretary released a statement to us that he's directed. So want to know why.
The Malaysian institution moved by themselves on the face of the letter that they issued. So I would have expected the local institutions to move by themselves. But if they haven't, and the president instructs the movement, I don't see anything wrong.
Some people feel that escalates this and makes it more political. Because the person that you are claiming is the individual one is his opponent in the next election.
Perhaps if we have said it, you can say it's political. But he has a job to do as an executive government, and he must do it. This is an international matter.
Now, to the extent that MPP has come out to point accusing fingers at former President Mahama, the statement by the Attorney General should not. Is that the last we hear from NDC? Will there be some sort of
definitely will not be the
press conference or something?
You have been asking good questions. This Trump come to Ghana.
This what?
Trump come to Ghana. Trump wants, what's his name? His competitor in the impending elections.
Oh! You're talking of the
this is Trump come to Ghana. So now my competitor. Somehow a report has come. I want you to investigate my competitor. Trump come to Ghana. But let me tell you,
it would be amiss not to investigate this.
Let me tell you. But we are open to investigation. But I'm just.
So is that what you feel? Is that
Trump come to Ghana?
Malaysians are doing Trump.
And the questions you have asked clearly reveal that because there were many. Who are the agents of Who were the agents of Amer who negotiated the multi-billion deal? That added 800. Who were the agents? Why didn't the president ask that they should be investigated by serious fraud office? Who were the agents who negotiated the extension of car power from 10 years to 20 years? Who were the agents? Why didn't the president ask that they should be negotiated?
Why? Is it a bad negotiation?
Well, I'm telling you that. You see, I say that if you read the judgment, you come to one conclusion. That John Mahama is above board. Why? 3 aircrafts were bought. 3 aircraft. The last aircraft, you know how it was bought? By direct deal.
Because they were already in the market.
By direct. If President Mahama and the NDC government were interested in commissions, they would have looked for an agent. Direct deal from Airbus.
They were already in the market.
Thanks for being on the program. You've been hearing Inusah Fuseini is MP for Tamale Central, and he was in Parliament when this matter was discussed in 2011. At the time, YB was not yet in Parliament.
Yeah.
But he got to Parliament in 2016. He's now the MP for Adenta, also the Director of Communications for MPP, discussing the Airbus bribery scandal. They've been fined $3 billion, and they will pay everything. Thank you for watching. My name is Bernard Avile. Stay with Citi TV. See you next time. Bye-bye. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on Citi TV's YouTube channel. Subscribe for more videos on The Point of View. My name is Bernard Avile. Thank you.
The Point of View with Bernard Avile, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on Citi TV.